Hi friends, we're off here with the Louisville ProActivist Report. Glad to be back. I'm doing this series of interviews here with people, activists, organizers, independent media, all involved in the Black Lives Movement and the movement for police accountability. So if you haven't seen my previous videos on this, go ahead and check those out. And that brings me to my guest today. I have community organizer and activist Delaney Haley. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's get kind of right into it. I know you do a lot of work in the community. So just kind of talk about, how you got started with activism and what inspired you to do what you do today.
So, what got me started with activism is that I'm Black. So it's been kind of a lifelong thing. I've been doing this for years. This is nothing really new to me. What got me into the organizing aspect and the community leader aspect is just with the kind of surge of the killing of unarmed Black people across the U.S. over the past few years, and especially here with Breonna Taylor. That's what kind of propelled me into the leader/organizer role.
Okay, and I know you're doing a lot of work nowadays with No Justice, No Peace. So can you talk about that a little bit? What's the work with that?
So yeah, No Justice, No Peace Louisville. The name speaks for itself. Obviously, until we get justice, there's not going to be any peace in the city. And I am one of the founders of No Justice, No Peace Louisville. We are a nonprofit organization now. It's kind of evolved into that. And what got us started with No Justice, No Peace Louisville specifically is, with sort of the Breonna Taylor uprising. We just kind of came together as a collective of us, myself and two other guys, Aaron Jordan, James Leslie, and we were we have to do something about this. We have to unite the community because it was so fractured. We saw everything going on with injustices that were taking place systemically with, prison systems and the way that the police force was treating Black people, and especially with the Breonna Taylor case, we were we have to do something, and that's kind of how No Justice, No Peace Louisville started.
Nice. So speaking of Breonna Taylor, take me back to the day when you first heard the news of what happened to her. How did that hit you at that time?
So when it first happened, I remember I was speaking out about it when it first arose, and I was why is no one really talking about this in Louisville? I actually made a Facebook post about it when it initially happened back in March. And I was just what? Why isn't anybody talking about this? And it didn't gain really any traction. And I was hey, this whole situation sounds really, really, really fucked up. What is going on? And why is it not being broadcast like every other life of a Black man or a man who's unarmed? I just was what? Why are we not enraged about this? And when I first heard about it, my initial feelings were just shock, and I was confused. I was just how did this happen? You know what I mean? What is this story? What is the story of this, if that makes sense? And now that it's kind of gained traction, it's more so shifted to anger, outrage, disgust. So that's kind of how my feelings have shifted with everything that's starting to come out about the case.
Okay, and so now that's been 71 days, I believe, today. Yep. What do you think about the reaction the city's had and just kind of the coming together that everybody's had for Breonna?
So the government has really had no reaction. I mean, anywhere. The mayor's been he's completely kind of set back from the situation. He hasn't really addressed too much of anything with the case. The attorney general has said nothing. So the government, the people who we would look to for answers, are not giving us any answers. They're not really saying anything on it. So it's bullshit. What are you guys doing? Why has it been 71 days since we've been protesting and we literally have not even answers? We have we have nothing. Do you know what I mean? And then, the community's coming together, I think that's beautiful. To see everybody uprising and getting together as a collective, I think that's a beautiful thing to witness. And that's another thing that No Justice, No Peace Louisville is about, is not only holding these government systems accountable, but unifying the community. And that's one thing that I can say is that the unity that I have seen, the protesting that I've seen has been beautiful. But as far as the people who should be held accountable, the mayor, the attorney general, the police system, or the police force, like, they've just been fucking terrible. Like, they've been awful.
So speaking of the accountability, what kind of would you like to see going forward from the police department and from our local officials? How would you like them to handle this?
I think that when it initially happened, the officer should have been fired immediately. You know what I mean? Like, there was no reason that 3 officers should have blindly shot into Breonna Taylor's apartment and hit adjacent apartments. Like I said, there were bullet holes everywhere. That's insane. Whoever had the power at that point, which was the mayor, should have been like, hey, this is, or the police chief, he's fucking terrible too. I can't think of his name. Conrad, he was just awful. There was no accountability. I mean, there was nothing. They should have been fired immediately. So when that didn't happen, and it went to the mayor, and the mayor was like, I'm not going to fire him, I think he kind of pretty much showed everyone his stance then. At the end of the day, there was an unarmed black woman, EMT, essential worker, ER tech also, who was killed. She was murdered. And there was nothing done about it. Nothing. And I think that there should have been something done immediately. So it's just outrageous, honestly. It's crazy. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. So what do you think about the situation with David McAtee?
Another thing, completely unnecessary, because why is the National Guard on 26th and Broadway? What are you doing there? The protests were happening at 6th and Liberty, might have got pushed back to maybe like 8th and Liberty or something like that. But there was no reason for the National Guard to go all the way down into an area where there had been no protests taking place, and then start bullying people, and then to have another innocent life lost, whether he shot in there or whatever happened. There was no need for him to be murdered either. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's like, it's kind of unfathomable, like, how that whole situation played out also.
Yeah, it was crazy. They didn't announce themselves. There was no reason for them to be there, like you said.
Why were they there?
Right.
I mean, that's literally 20 blocks past where the protests were. So what the fuck are you doing in an all-black area? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point?
Right. At a restaurant that feeds, David James.
He fed his community.
He fed the community, fed the police. So
he fed his community. So now, look, you have more blood on your hands. So what, it's crazy.
Now, did you know Tyler Girth by chance?
I did not know Tyler Girth. But that's another really fucked up situation. And there's so many details about that have still not emerged. There's so many people who have so many different thoughts of what may have happened with that. That whole situation is just off. And, we have another added layer of the white supremacist American freedom fighters who were, there at the square that day on the roofs with long-range rifles and scopes. And yet again, LMPD did nothing about that, even though they had been alerted multiple times. I was down there that day. And I remember a group of us, we kept looking up, we kept saying, who are these people on the roofs? Like, you could tell that they weren't officers, obviously. And we were just like, who are these people? We kept seeing them. They would peek up, put their binoculars. I mean, it was, what the fuck are you doing? So I stayed there from about 8 a.m. that morning to about 4:30 p.m. That evening. And I remember leaving. When I left, it was very calm. It still had a bit of an eerie feeling, and I don't know if it had that eerie feeling because of the tensions that were there with the American freedom fighter people there or whatever. But it was calm, but it just felt eerie. It wasn't the same atmosphere that had been felt at the square, which was pretty joyous. And when I heard that he had gotten shot and, you know, killed, it was very, very, very unsettling. It's a very, very difficult thing to hear. You know, that was a very sad situation.
It was. Like you, I was there that day too, and I had left because it kind of felt like it was mostly calm and kind of settled for the day, and you know, anything that would have happened would have already happened.
Exactly.
So, you know, we were tired, we packed up and went home, and then I heard about that later. I just couldn't believe it.
Terrible. It was such an unnecessary, sad situation. So it's awful.
Yeah. So let's switch to something a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more uplifting for a second. So I know I had seen an interview with you previously at the unveiling of the Breonna Taylor mural.
Yes.
And it's beautiful down there. So give me your thoughts on that.
I had Whitney Holburn reach out to me through a friend of hers who, you know, she's an artist, has done pieces kind of like internationally in different areas of the U.S. And she reached out and she was like, hey, she's a Louisville native also. She was like, hey, with everything that's going on, I want to come to Louisville and do a huge mural, you know, at no profit to me. I want to give back to the community. This is my way. I want to include Black artists, which was one of the things that I was very adamant on, is that, you know, if you're going to do this, there have to be Black artists involved. This is a Black movement. So, you know, I said, absolutely, you know, let's work on this. Let's get some Black artists in on this. And when she came here and she did the mural, they were working on that, I mean, like tirelessly for days. It was her, another local Black artist, Resco, Braylon Stewart is his name, Andrew Norris, and I think those are the main three. And they were working on that, I mean, day in and day out for at least, I want to say, I don't know, maybe, gosh, like 7 days straight or something. And when we went out, No Justice, No Peace Louisville, we kind of orchestrated a community event for that, the unveiling. And when we went out to that, that was just an empowering moment. You know, I mean, the mural is just like next level beautiful. Like, it's just, I see it, like when I pass it, I'm just like, wow, like this is fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I saw it the other day for the first time, and
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
It's so, like, I was just so like, I didn't realize like how like big and just like, it makes such a statement. Like, say her name, say their names, like it brought so much awareness, and that was a wonderful day. That was a wonderful day, honestly.
It was. So like we said earlier, this is day 71 of straight protests here in the city, but this also been getting a lot of national attention. And with that, we're getting some outside help here in the last few weeks. So we had Until Freedom come here and did the whole sit-in on Daniel Cameron's lawn. We also had the Colorado Caravan come here. And then, of course, we had the NFAC come here. What do you think about this? What do you think about the help we're getting from out of town? Do you think it helps?
Yeah. So the way I feel about that is that, you know, if it's bringing awareness, if it's for genuine reasons, we welcome you. If you want to amplify the voices of local organizers here and help spread awareness, that's wonderful. I know with Until Freedom, that is something that Ms. Palmer, Breonna Taylor's mother, she wanted to work with them, and that's what I'm all about. If you want to work with them, if that's going to make her, you know, whatever she wants, I'm supporting. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, she was a big supporter of Until Freedom. And I think that that's wonderful. I think that, like I said, if people from out of town are coming for the right reasons, if they are coming to amplify the voices of local organizers, then welcome. You know what I mean? We have to keep as much awareness on this this case as possible until we do get some form of justice or answers or something. And, we also need to keep the momentum going because, like you said, it's been 71 days. And people here were tired. I've been going since day one, doing something in some way. So if you're coming here to amplify voices, to amplify awareness of the case, welcome.
What do you think about the NFAC presence?
The NFAC, I honestly don't know enough about the NFAC. I've heard multiple things. I've heard both positive and negative. I don't know enough about the NFAC. Of course, being Black, it was awesome to see an all-Black militia. It was just cool to see. But as far as their actual organization, I don't know enough about the NFAC to kind of have an opinion formed on that. But being a Black woman, to see an all-Black militia was cool.
So let's switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
So talk about how kind of movements intersect. So we have the Black Lives Movement. We also have the LGBTQ movement. We've had a couple marches the last couple weeks. We have got another one coming up tomorrow, I believe. So how do you think those intersect, and how does that help?
Yeah. So this overall movement is very unique because it's not just about police brutality and holding the police accountable. It's also about uplifting voices of all oppressed demographics. So you see a lot of trans people coming out to support the movement, Black women, people in underserved areas. You see sort of a broad spectrum of people because this movement has kind of been an all-inclusive movement. It's kind of blossomed into that. So when you see the intersection of the LGBTQ and the Black lives, you start to see more unity there also. There's a huge stigma in the Black community with gay people and trans people. Traditionally, historically, it's just an issue within the Black community, in certain areas of the Black community. But I've seen that be put aside a lot for this movement, because this is a movement that also needs to focus on the liberation of Black people, and that means putting some of those stereotypes to the side and uniting. So I think when we are talking about the intersection of Black lives and LGBTQ, you see them crossing and you see us being stronger in those numbers as well. And that's been amazing to see, especially as a Black queer gender non-conforming woman. That's been fucking amazing. So it's been a very all-inclusive movement, and it's been a movement that's really kind of focused on uplifting the voices of the oppressed. And you see a sort of like a collection of an uprising of different demographics of people, and it's been fucking amazing.
Yeah. So I want to get into a couple of the community topics a little bit. Let's talk about gentrification. At the national level, it's really hard to get anything done politically because so much big money comes in, and we don't have that as much as the local level, but we do have to deal with the developers. That's where the big money comes in locally, and that's kind of the big money we're fighting against. So we had that news come out with Breonna Taylor and her block, her apartment complex, that they were there because of gentrification, and they were trying to clear that area out. So talk to us about gentrification out here in the West End, and maybe that with Breonna Taylor specifically.
I mean, it's terrible. Gentrification kills. I mean, we've seen that happen with the Breonna Taylor case. It's not an over-exaggeration. Gentrification kills. And it literally tied into Breonna's death. You see it time and time again where you have families who are pushed out of their areas because of gentrification. The rent is raised in areas that are skyrocketed to where it's hard for anyone to really live there, and that plays back into capitalism. Capitalism is just the root of all evil. But with gentrification, we see it further oppressing Blacks, pushing those Blacks out, displacing them. they mask it in this revitalization of an area, but it's not. It's pushing people out, gaining profit from capitalism and skyrocketing these rent prices to where these Black people are displaced. Where are they going to go? How are they going to survive? How are they going to thrive? They're in unfamiliar areas. Then they further face more racism, more weird looks and stares. It's fucking terrible. And gentrification overall has just been, in this city, it's just, the more you look into it, it's just really, really, really fucked up what they've done to certain housing projects and the inhabitants of these housing projects. And also with gentrification, just the lack of resources that it gives to Black people who are displaced from their areas. So gentrification, like I said, that's my statement. Gentrification kills. And that's it. I mean, that's it. It's terrible.
Yeah. Now, we can't get into these topics without also talking about the community policing. So even before Breonna Taylor, tell us about how the policing was in the community.
Yeah, so, I mean, Black people are targeted. They're harassed. They are policed at a level that I've never seen. I've faced it myself. It's just unfair policing tactics used to Black people specifically and people of color. I think we all know that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's no question. You've seen it. I can't tell you how many times that I've been in a downtown area or an area that may look like I'm out of place, I guess. I've been pulled over for really like nothing. I had maybe 10 on my car or something. The reasons that I've gotten pulled over have been so like ludicrous, like I can't even remember some of them, but it's happened multiple times. So these community policing tactics that they use against Black people and people of color, like I said, they're very unfair, very biased. And, I think we all know that's something that we see time and time and time again. Unfair policing tactics that target Black people and people of color.
And since the Breonna Taylor case, how has community policing changed at all? Have you noticed a difference, better or worse? I know one thing I've noticed is they live stream now. Have you noticed anything else since then, or is it just the same old story?
I've definitely noticed a big difference because they're more aggressive. I don't know if it's them being frightened, if it's them being tired, if it's them being just pieces of shit. I don't know what it is, but I've definitely noticed, it was bad enough before, but I've noticed that they're a lot more aggressive, especially not really community policing based, but when it comes to even just, like I said, the marches or like the peaceful protesters, even people downtown at Injustice Square, it's just automatically a high tension kind of aggressive, like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, get out. You know what I mean? It's just, I've definitely noticed more aggression with the police force now, for sure.
Yeah, nothing beats responding to protesters for police brutality by responding with police brutality and intimidation and bullying. It's like they don't get it at all.
Something's missing. So
right.
Yeah.
So earlier today, I know I watched a video with you and I believe it was Chris Smith meeting with Councilman David James. For those who don't know, he's the president of our Metro Council here, former police officer. So what I saw was a lot of ducking and diving from David James, and a lot of not clear answers, pretty much. A lot of running, beating around the bush, so to speak. So talk about that meeting today, kind of, what you were hoping to accomplish. Do you feel like you accomplished anything with that? And just talk about that whole meeting.
I went to the meeting. I was invited by Chris Smith to go. And of course, I was like, absolutely. I went into the meeting open-minded. because I wanted to, I guess, have maybe some kind of hope, which was shut down within the first probably 17 seconds, like literally, of the interview. I mean, like, from the gate, it was just arrogance, defensiveness, someone being or attempting to be condescending. Yeah. And I don't think he was prepared for the questions that we did ask him, because I'm not going to go into anything without first doing a little bit of research on you and knowing my shit. And that's why I think he was giving those very circular responses and those very, like you said, ducking and dodging, just plain like answers with no substance, coming back to, rerouting the questions. And I was like, dude, like, you're going to answer me. Okay. Like, you're not going to get away from this. If you try to do this shit again, I'm going to get my answer. And I think that's why he was shook. He was caught up. He didn't know what to do. He was just like, he wasn't expecting that. And that's what, when I went in there, I was like, I'm going to go with open mind, but if you do what you've been doing, I'm going to put the pressure on you. And I put the pressure on him, and he couldn't handle it. So that was very interesting. I didn't come out with really anything from that, except that what I've heard about him was proven to be true. That he's self-serving. He's a cop first. He doesn't really care about his community and the district that he serves. And it was upsetting because he didn't really answer anything, so, which was expected.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of how it works with these establishment politicians. And make no mistake, David James is establishment. They get a lot of softball questions. They get coddled a lot of butt kissing.
Yes.
And so when they're actually called to account, they're so not used to that they can't even handle it. And that's what we saw out of David James today. It was him just kind of flailing around on camera and not answering, and then saying, well, I still haven't finished answering the question. Well, you haven't even attempted to answer the question to this point. So.
He didn't want to answer the question. He was trying to stay on questions that really held no substance. So when I was hitting him with those facts and, hey, what's this, and that, he was just like, we call that shook. Yeah. He was shook today. So that's what we wanted.
Looked to me like you all were on a time limit, and he was kind of trying to draw out the clock until it was over.
Yes.
So
that's exactly what he was doing, but you're not going to do that. Not on my watch. We're going to get these questions in. You know what I mean? So that's what. Yeah. He's a trip. I have no words for what that was today. That was a mess with him.
I appreciate you and Chris Smith today, because you all both hitting with the questions. Chris gave him a nice little sending off there at the end too. For anybody that hasn't seen that,
so good.
Make sure you watch that video after you watch that video if you haven't already.
Oh, his sending off was wonderful. It was wonderful. I loved it. It was
basically a mic drop moment, and he walked out of the room. So
yes,
way to go, Chris. Yeah.
The mic drop of the summer. So that was lovely.
So that's pretty much all the questions I have. Did you have any other anything that we missed? Anything else you want to touch on before we go?
Breonna Taylor. Arrest her killers. Hold them accountable. Breonna Taylor, that's it. Follow No Justice, No Peace Louisville.
Do you have any other social media you want to shout out or anything?
Nope. Breonna Taylor. That's it. Say her name.
That's it. Breonna Taylor.
Breonna Taylor. That's it.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you're really busy and got a lot going on, and you squeezed a few minutes out for me, so it's much appreciated.
Yes.
Make sure you all share this out. People, get this information out. I'm a local independent nonprofit, so the only way that you can help me out is by sharing, liking, following, and Delaney is a powerful voice in our community, and she's one that people need to hear, so share it out to your friends and family. And then check out the rest of the series that I'm doing. I've got a few videos out. I've got a few ready to drop, and a few more I'm lining up, so we'll keep at it till we get the whole story out there for you all. So that's pretty much it on my end. Thank you all for tuning in, and remember to tune in next time. We'll see you then.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.